All right. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. So excited to see all of you in the audience. And I'm also incredibly excited about today's guest. I'm so excited because I think not only is she an amazing coach, I think she's done an incredible job of putting together a formula, putting together an approach to really support you with communicating your value and building win win opportunities. And that's why today I am so excited to have Toyin as my co host. But before I give her an opportunity to introduce herself, I just want to thank all of you that are listening. You could be anywhere today. It's a Friday as well. And you're here today in the room with us. And so I really appreciate it. And I know Toyin also really appreciates it. And I'm really excited to dive into today's topic. We're going to be talking about sponsorship and networking in the workplace. And both of us, I think, agree on this. Both of us agree that these are really important things for us to consider as leaders, both within our personal life and our professional life as well. So, Toyin, can you please take a second to introduce yourself and let everyone in the room know a bit about you and, yeah, share a bit about who you are?
Okay, thank you, Akua. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. My name is Toyin. Um, some people who know me refer to me as the troublemaker, but
Yes.
I don't like I don't like that moniker. I actually prefer if I'm called the disruptor, because I know that a lot of things I do, I disrupt the way businesses work, and and I have my own ideas. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming on today. As I said before, my name is Toyin. Well, I'm a professional, certified, and accredited coach. I'm also a growth specialist, and basically, I create a lot of things. And as I said before, I tend to disrupt the norm, because the world we're living in today and tomorrow is going to be full of disruption. So here I am, ready to disrupt and to make sure that whatever I do, I create value for not just my clients, but also myself and along the whole value chain. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much once again, Toyin, for joining. And I will keep that in mind. You are a disruptor. And I like that actually, because I think there is some level of something constructive, right? Innovative,
Yeah.
creative that comes
Yes.
out of being a
Yeah.
disruptor. But I guess you
Yes.
could say one person's disruptor is another person's troublemaker, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. Yes, Sakura. Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, I want to dive into today's topic. And
Hmm.
as I do this, I also wanted to share just a really quick unscientific poll that I did on Tuesday. I always try and share a poll in relation to the conversation that I'm having on Friday. And I asked those people who follow me, people who saw this particular poll, which is most important to have in the workplace? And I gave
Hmm.
three basic options. I said, number one, is it having a mentor within the workplace? Is it number two, having a sponsor within the workplace? And then number three, having a workplace friend. So
Hmm.
I'm curious, from your perspective, Twain, which do you think is the most important?
Okay, well, I basically from my perspective, right, having a mentor is great, right? Don't get me wrong, it's a great
Mm-hmm.
thing to do. But having a sponsor will grow the person's career growth, and also help the person progress along the whatever career choice or ladder they choose to go. Um, so, for instance, I'll give you an example. Mentors will always give advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're very valuable, but they play a different role. They provide the guidance and sometimes coaching, but aren't necessarily in positions of influence. That's a
Mm-hmm.
mentor. A mentor will give you clarity on a specific situation, which is something that will happen now or something that could happen now, in the workplace. So you have workplace mentors and you have external mentors, but every time they give you advice, it's on a specific subject or challenge that the individual is having. And they could be your bosses, or they could be your peers, or just people you connect with. However, I think we should always remember this: mentors will always give advice, right? But sponsors will give you the capital you need.
Ooh.
These are the people who say who talk about you when you're not in the room. And for everybody who either works in the corporate environment, or has worked there, or is working there, or owns an organization, if you think about it, decisions are made about you when you're not in the room. Whether they're going to promote you, whether they're going to fire you, you won't be in the room when these decisions are being made. And that's why it becomes important, vital, fundamental for people to actually have sponsors. We should always remember this: mentors provide value, sponsors give capital.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that, Toye. That should be a t-shirt. Um, and I'm curious, those of you
Yeah.
who are listening in, those of you who are joining us, can you actually just use the reaction button? So Toye has actually given us a nice description, the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. Do you have a sponsor within your workplace or even within the work that you do? Let us know with the reaction. I would love to know. Those of you in the room, if you have a sponsor, I see one thumbs up. Anyone else have a sponsor within your workplace? And if not, that might be something maybe you want to work on. Tonya, when I did
Yes.
this poll, surprisingly, 50% of people said it was more important to have a mentor.
Wow. Okay. Well, that again, as I said before, having a mentor is fantastic. It's a great idea, but a mentor is not going to be there. It's not going to talk about you when you're not in the room. A mentor will give you advice. A mentor's advice is always valuable, but they will give you advice on a current situation or a current challenge that you're having. The sponsor, however, is a completely different individual. The sponsor has the position, has the leverage, and the sponsor has the capital that you need to rise wherever you find yourself. And this is irrespective of the kind of sector you're in, right? A mentor needs a lot of information to help you, right? But a sponsor is totally different. A sponsor needs to know that you can do what you say you can do. A sponsor needs to know that you have the potential to be a superstar, and that sponsor will make sure you become the superstar you want to be. So basically, in a nutshell, sponsors are strong and consistent advocates for the people they're sponsoring. They have, and I said this before, they have positions of power and influence, and can directly influence one way or the other, the person's trajectory or lack of within that organization.
Yes, yes.
And it's important for us to know the difference between the two. The mentor will give advice, so they will guide you, but the sponsor will give you the capital you need. And it's interesting because and Akua, from what you said, yeah, the poll, most people don't realize the importance of having a mentor, sorry, a sponsor. They realize why you should have a mentor, because that one will guide you. And the thing about it, though, is when people are considering their jobs or thinking about their roles in the organization, you don't want to think about your role in the organization in the position that you currently are, because no one goes into an organization thinking that they're going to stay in one position for 10, 20 years. Right? You want to think about the future, where you're going to be, what's the next step from the level that you are. A mentor cannot provide that trajectory for you. A sponsor will.
Yes, yes. Thank you for breaking that down. And all of you who are listening, I want to make sure that you all know that this is meant to be an interactive room. So if you do have a question or something that you want to share based on your experience on the topic we're covering today, feel free to raise your hand and I'll invite you onto this stage. But Tonya, yeah, just wanted to start off with that poll, because I will say I was surprised. And one thing that came to mind is maybe people don't know the definition. So I appreciate that you took the time to break it down for us, and maybe people will start to rethink some of the relationships, some of the connections that they're making within the workplace. But I do think this is a really great segue to talking about networking within the workplace. What should people keep in mind, and how can people even find a sponsor?
Okay, so that's another fantastic question. I think what people should keep in mind is that there are two different kinds of currencies that I will talk about now.
Mm-hmm.
When people go into an organization, they need to that two organizational currencies basically. There's the performance currency, right, which is the technical skills. It gets you noticed, it gets you hired, it gets you paid, it gets you promoted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up to a particular level. But the higher you go, the currency that makes most sense, and this is globally, is actually your relationship currency. And that's your network, who you have as a sponsor. And what your network does for you and what your sponsor does for you is they leverage your growth and accelerate your career, and they make your accomplishments known. So, for instance, we all know when they're doing reviews, performance reviews. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
initially it's a one-on-one with your boss or your manager or your team head or whatever. But when they compile those results, right, and they're talking about it at board level, you are not going to be there. And if your sponsor is there, your sponsor is going to advocate on your behalf. So we should always remember there are two kinds of organizational currencies that people need to have. There's the performance one, which is fine, it gets you to a certain level. But what will take you through the roof is the relationship currency. And you asked me about how does one get to get a sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
I think for starters, I mean, you can either identify a sponsor, but when you're identifying a sponsor, you have to be bold and clearly articulate what it is you want. And I've noticed and I've realized, I mean, when I do polls or facilitate, a lot of people they can't say what it is they want clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, we said that the sponsor is in a position of power, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's in a position of leadership. And you can't sit in front of somebody and start mumbling, right? And not give clarity on what it is you want. Especially, the way sponsorship works is it's either the person calls you and tells you, you know what, oh, I want you to work with me on this particular project. Now, if you've been called at that level, then that person has noticed that, okay, yeah, this person has the makings of a superstar,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
However, if you haven't been called, it doesn't mean you don't have the makings. It just means that, the person is probably too busy to notice. And therefore, when you finally book that appointment that, oh, I'd like to have a few minutes of your time, remember what you did discuss with the person, a few minutes of your time. So in those few minutes, you have to clearly articulate what it is you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone is a challenge for most people. I mean, that's why I came up with the V.A.T.O.R pitch, which allows people to, succinctly say what it is that they want to do, or what they're selling or presenting, or their ideas, in a space of 5 minutes, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so that is where that comes in, because we have to remember, when you're dealing with a sponsor, it's high stakes, and
Mm-hmm.
that equals high accelerated growth. And before you start talking to the sponsor, it's what I call the DDAI principle. You decide on what you want,
Mm-hmm.
define how you want it, how you will add value to the relationship, and state your intentionality.
Oh, I love
So you
that.
have to decide on what you want. In the V.A.T.O.R pitch, it's like the V stands for visualize. What is it that you actually want? And how does this sponsor come in? Because you know how it is. Normally, you see people, you talk to people, and they say, okay, so what do you want me to do for you? And then we start mumbling again.
Yeah.
So it's have the big picture in your mind, see what it is you want. And when you see it, you're able to define it. Clearly activate, articulate, voice, and show the person that, you know what, working with me or sponsoring me will bring you the value you need. Because remember, even though it's a sponsorship, it's not a one-way street.
Mm-hmm.
If we think about sponsorship in its broadest terms, when I say, oh, Aqua, come and sponsor my 10K run, right? You will
Yeah.
sponsor it. No, just as that, I mean, you will sponsor it because you want the returns on it, whatever the case may be. Whether I'm wearing a shirt that says I'm sponsored by Aqua so that the whole world can see, but then you
Mm-hmm.
want value for it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a two-way value street. It's not just, oh yeah, this person is sponsoring me and that's it. Because remember, the sponsor is in a level of authority. The sponsor doesn't want to be embarrassed, and the sponsor doesn't want to
Yes.
take somebody who is going to embarrass them to the table.
Yes, I love that. And before we get through the rest of your what V.A.T.O.R stands for, I'd love to
Right.
see what Yogita, hopefully I'm saying that right, would like to add, and then we'll go through the rest of the V.A.T.O.R
Yeah.
pitch approach.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Um,
Hello.
Hello. I wanted to I'm just stepped in my graduation. I know it's too early, but I don't want to give any advice. I just wanted to ask ma'am regarding like she has been having a very good life experience till now. I would like to have one lesson for me from her experience, like from past few years, what she had experienced, like which will benefit me, one advice from her experience. I would love to have that. I know it's too early to ask. I know the session has begun just now, but if you really guide me, it will be very helpful for me.
Anything specific? So would it be helpful to hear like maybe what advice she would have for herself
Regarding in
as a
my
graduate?
entrepreneur journey,
Okay.
yeah, I'm entering in my. I have to become an entrepreneur, and
Okay.
I'm on the way of that. So regarding on that path and advice, which I have to, which will help me in my life, and ma'am had in her journey.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for that question. Really appreciate it. And to all of you that are listening, please feel free to raise your hand if you have a question or something that you want to add to this conversation. Tonya, any thoughts? And I think that even, the Vader, just being able to communicate effectively might be a
Yeah.
great lesson or something for anyone looking to enter into the entrepreneurship space needs to consider.
Yeah. Yes, Akua. Thank you for asking that question, Yogita. So what I would say, the piece of advice I would always give anyway, and has helped me a lot, has been don't neglect or negate the business influencing factor. We in the past it's been, yeah, one on one, and it's what you know, not who you know. And now, from now to the future, it's going to be how best you that person, your clients, and even your team, to actually see the bigger picture, to actually believe in what it is you have to offer. And this is where it comes in. You as an entrepreneur have to visualize what it is you want that person who you're connecting with. So your network is very key. You could even have a sponsor, might not be in the workplace, but you could have a sponsor in the organization you're trying to sell to.
Yes.
Right? But business influencing is extremely important, because ages ago it was believed that, to be able to sell a very good product or service, all you needed to do was have charisma, and then the product had to be well known. That is not the case anymore, and it hasn't been the case for a long time. Because if you remember, we only do business with people we like. How
Mm-hmm.
do you get the person to like you if the person can't even understand what it is you're going to offer them? And so that's where business influencing comes in, and that's where the V.A.T.O.R pitch comes in, because it shows you how you can target an individual or an organization, take them along the journey. I said this when I was doing a session a few weeks ago. The most important thing for you to get out of a potential business partner is to actually get them to invest in your journey. Once they invest, you have them. However, what normal salespeople and entrepreneurs do is just go there. You have this whole script that is written out, and you just tell them the product or service you're offering, and they nod and nod and nod, and they say, "I will get back to you." The reason why they say, "I will get back to you," is because they haven't invested in your journey. They probably, when you started talking, were listening, were thinking about something else. And so it's important, especially even if you're selling a tangible or an intangible service or product, you have to get them to invest in your journey. And I'll give you another example. The session I was doing a few weeks ago, I said, okay, so how many people like watching particular movies? And somebody said, oh, their best movie was, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it was a movie filled with emotion and stuff. And I said, why? And the person said, well, because it made them feel special.
Mm-hmm.
And the person, this movie that they mentioned was, I mean, it was like 30, 40 years ago. It was an old movie. And they still love that movie. The only reason why they felt special was because that movie had the hook that caught them. right? So no matter what it is, even though the movie is 40 years old, they keep on going back to that movie. It's the same reason why we go to specific stores or specific shops, right? Not because they're doing anything different, but because they've invested in us and we've invested in them. So it's mutual investment value. And so that's the advice I'm going to give. Make sure that you have your business influencing hat on. Make sure that you're able to visualize, you're able to activate, you're able to test, you're able to show them the opportunity and the results of doing business with you. Not so it's not just a one-way street. We cannot, and I cannot stress this any more than this. We cannot think that the way forward to get more sales or to get more subscribers or clients will be to sit down in front of them and have a one-sided conversation as we used to in the past. That's not going to work anymore. Now you have to get the person invested in you from the time you open your mouth to introduce what it is you do. I hope that helps, Yogita.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would appreciate a lot your advice, and I'm very thankful to have in this session. And thank you so much for guiding in my path. And I would have like love to have more these sessions like this. The people, the experiences of people, so that in future I may have a great personality development in and entrepreneur skills. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so much. Great question. And what I love about that question is that it's really opened up, right, this conversation to just talking about, influence and networking within the workplace, and open it up to talking about it from the perspective of entrepreneurship as well. So thank you so much,
Yeah.
Tonya, for giving us that perspective and really showing us how it can be used in either situation. So
Yeah.
So Tonya, I know
You're
you
welcome.
walked through it, but
Yeah.
I want to make sure we do this right. I want to make sure we get through every single letter so that everybody here can take away this really, really fabulous formula and use it, straight away. So please remind
Yes.
us, what does each letter stand for again, and what should we consider as we use the V.A.T.O.R pitch approach?
Okay, so the V.A.T.O.R pitch basically is business influencing reinvented, right? And why I say business influencing reinvented is because we all know about business influencing or influencing in the workplace. And the beauty of how I've reinvented it is because it's quite flexible. It's flexible to use within the workplace. It's flexible to use. It doesn't matter whether it's in the entertainment sector, whatever sector you are, right? Ultimately, when you're talking or communicating with your stakeholders, you want to influence them to make the decision that creates a win-win situation for both parties, right? And so the V.A.T.O.R pitch is it's reinvented to meet the needs of our time and of the future. And what it does is when it's applied, it equips the speaker or the communicator with the tools to increase their impact with every client or stakeholder they meet. It helps them increase the client base, increase the future of business influencing. So basically, what does the V.A.T.O.R pitch mean? Okay, so the V.A.T.O.R pitch, the V.A.T.O.R in itself stands for, the V stands for the word visualization, visual stimulation, right? The A stands for activate. The T in the V.A.T.O.R stands for test. The O stands for the opportunity, show the listener the opportunity. And then the R means show them the results, So I'll give you an example, and I said before, right? If we remember, there was this quote by Maya Angelou a long time ago when she said, I'm trying to figure out how she said it. I can't remember it, but it was something about
Is it they remember how you make them, not what you've said, but
yes,
how you
yes,
make them
yes,
feel?
yeah,
Along
People
those
will
lines,
forget
right?
what you said. Yes. Now I remembered it. Yeah, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Right? And so the V.A.T.O.R pitch is centered around when we make our clients or our customers feel good, they will remember us and they will remember our products and services. And the only way they can remember our goods and services is like the example I gave before of the person who watched a movie that is 40 years old and still remembers how that movie made them feel. Right? And that is it. They will remember our products and services, and it hasn't been more factual than today. especially if we consider the fact that, there's remote working, flexible working, all sorts of, and most of us do services and products or shopping online. And then this statement comes into full effect. So successful sales, and I always say this, regardless of whatever it is we do, we sell, whether we're talking to our team leader or our bosses, or even cascading downwards to our teams, right? Or even our partners, our spouses, our friends, we are selling. And negotiations are based on three main factors, which is the rapport, the building and maintaining relationships, and emotional connection. Now, using the V.A.T.O.R pitch as an example, if I were to come to, so the other day, let me give this example. Somebody said, so how about you walk into an event, which is normally what we always do when we say we're going to a networking event, even though we don't network, we just collect printed paper. No, that's what always happens, because we pack all our business cards and we go there and we distribute business cards. And if you think about it, we distribute these business cards, right? And by the time we get home, we have 100 business cards. We don't remember what the people do, and they don't even remember us either.
Yes.
Because that initial meeting has not been memorable. The person hasn't invested in us. The person hasn't done anything. We're just surrounded by people sharing business cards. So we all take the business cards. However, let's consider this. What if I walked into a room, and there were a bunch of people sitting down, and I'll give you an example. So I walked into a boardroom a few months ago, and the CEO had asked me, "Oh, Toyin, I need you to come and talk to my people about coaching and about the V.A.T.O.R pitch, because we actually want to adopt it." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Oh, this is going to be a good idea. We'll see everything in action." So I walked in, and you know how it is with executive directors and stuff like that. I could see that they were not amused, right? By taking them out of their busy schedules to come and sit and listen to some woman just spout forth. And so I walked in and he introduced me and said, "So Toyin, the floor is yours." And I said, "Okay, great, thank you." And I stood up in front of them and I said, "Okay, so hi everybody. I'd like to ask you a question before I start. Why am I here?"
Oh.
And you could see the looks on their faces, and they were looking at me like, "What on earth is she talking? What does she mean? Why am I here? Why is she here?" So somebody said, "You're here to speak to us." I said, "Really? Is that why I'm here? Because I'm speaking to you now.
Oh.
So if that's why I'm here, then I can go back and sit down."
Oh, Toyin.
And the thing is, obviously you have to practice to know how you're going to, present that kind of thing. And it created such a controversial thing, and they were arguing. These are 15 executive directors, and they were arguing because one woman said, "Okay, I think you're here to talk to us about coaching," and another guy said, "No, she's not here to talk to us about coaching. She's here to help our company grow." And then I was like, "Okay, great. What does growth mean to you?" "Oh yeah." And they were really into it. The thing was supposed to be like a teaser session that was supposed to last for an hour. It ended up lasting for 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And and they were like, "No, Toyin, you know what? We need to sit down and really flesh this out. I understand now why they." "Oh yeah. So Toyin, when are we meeting again? Blah blah blah." And that is what I'm talking about: getting people to invest in you. The first time you open your mouth, you need to make sure that they're interested. Sometimes you can even ask a question. I've asked a CEO that I was supposed to coach, and he said, "Okay, so what is it you can do for me?" And I said, "Oh, that's a fantastic question. So let me ask you, let's go through this scenario." And he said, "Okay." And I said, "So imagine in the next 40 years, right? How old would you be?" He said, "I'm not telling you." I said, "Okay, no problem." I said, "But imagine you're being given an award for the best managing director ever in the banking sector." And he was like, "Oh, right. I would like that." And the word I used was imagine, right? His eyes went, how when you're imagining something and your eyes tilt to the left, and I could see he was imagining it already. And it was like, and then he held my hand. "Oh yeah, Toyin." I said, "Is this something that you'll be interested?" He said, "Of course, yes. So tell me, how do I get to that level?" Blah, blah. And he drove the conversation. And everything I needed to be able to sell to him. He gave me. But just by me saying, imagine in the next, well, imagine you're 70 and somebody comes to you and says, the press come to you, CNN come to you and say, oh, we want to give you an award for the best managing director ever in the banking sector and financial industry sector. But would like to ask, how did you get so successful? And he smiled. And I said, is this something you'd be interested in achieving? He said, of course. Now, how do I get there? We already did the visualization. I already activated him by asking, is this something you're interested in? And he asked me the question. So how do I get there? And then I told him, all right, you get there through working with me. I understand your organization is XYZ. This is what I do. This is how I can come in and help. And this is how I can guarantee that you get to that level that you want to get to when you're 70 years of age. Most of my clients, 80% of them or 90% of them actually get a 100% return on investment. And that's exactly what I said. And the guy turned to me and said, okay, you know what, Toyin, let's sit down, let's start booking those appointments and stuff like that. And that was the conversation.
Yes. Yes. I love that example. Thank you so much for sharing that, Toyin. And I love how you've given us, I think, a really good example of what this looks like in practice as well. Before I ask my next question, I want to make sure I open it up to all of you who are listening. Thank you so much for being here. Do any of you have a question for Toyin? Do any of you have even maybe examples of how you've tried to connect or network or even sell the work that you do? Feel free to raise your hand. I'll bring you on stage so you can ask our amazing co-host. And if not, I'll just continue with my questions. But feel free. I want to make sure this is an engaging room and that you have a chance to ask Toyin a question directly if you have one. All right. So Toyin, I think the first question that really comes to mind based on some of the stories that you've shared is, and you've already mentioned that you are a disruptor, right? So there's a way in which you can show up. There's a way in which maybe you can even potentially speak to people that have some level of power and authority. How does someone maybe who's a bit more junior, maybe doesn't have as many years of experience, start this? Yeah.
Sorry, Akko, I'm not sure if you want to. There's a hand up, actually.
Yes, I've added her, but in the meantime, yeah.
So do you want me to go ahead and answer that question?
Well, let's pause. I appreciate that, Toyin. Let's pause and let's hear from, is it Labari? Am I saying that correctly?
Oh,
welcome. Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Oh, so many insights and so much value.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So, yeah, I work with a lot of young people, students, their parents, but really my clients are the students. And, they have very short attention span, especially, young people these days, microwave generation, they want it in and out. So I really have to catch their attention in like 30 seconds. And the V.A.T.O.R pitch really looks like what I need. So I'm thinking, Toyin, can you just help me V.A.T.O.rize what I can say to a 16-year-old who has practically been dragged to my office by the parent? The parent sees what I'm about, the parent understands, but the child thinks, oh yeah, this is just another teacher telling me you can do it, and all their usual motivational speeches. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Labari, for that very difficult question. So I know, yes, the microwave age, as you call them, the gen. I'm not sure what generation we're in now, but yes, and it's not just them, actually. Just to point out, all of us now, our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter because we're more reliant on technology and AIs and all that. So it's important, and that's why it's important not to just start sitting in front of somebody without engaging the person and expecting a different result. So there are different types of the V.A.T.O.R pitch, right? There's the one word pitch, there's the question pitch, there's subject line pitch, and all that. But we won't go into that. You could use the question pitch for the student. Okay, so what is it that you want out of life? Why do you want to go to university? The whole point is, and that's just an idea, and that I'm just thinking based on what the question you asked, because as you said, yeah, they would be dragged to your office by their parents, not like they really want to come. They probably want to sit down watching Netflix or Xbox or something like that, or being on TikTok, right? Yeah. But then if you ask them the question, the minute you ask them the question, you started engaging them. And all I would say is ask them a question. Okay, so why do you want to go to university? And they say, oh well, because my parents want me to. Okay, why do you want to do what your parents want you to? Well, because, and you keep on asking the why. Once you've asked like 4 whys, you would see that they would sit forward and start answering the question. Well, actually, I think I want to go into. Well, maybe I want to go into the creative sector. What do you want? And that's the thing. We tend to shy away from challenging the person's opinion when the person is in front of us. But there's nothing wrong with challenging it politely, right? And because normally, and I'm looking at students and stuff, when they're in front of you, they look at you and they're like, professional woman, probably the same age as my parents. Oh my God, this person is going to be saying going to university is good for you and blah 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 blah, right? And you know what it is? They want to be somewhere else with their friends, and so their mind has already switched off by the time they come to you. But then you activate their minds again by asking them that question. Okay, so why are you here? And I can almost bet. I'm trying to figure out what it is I can bet. I can almost bet anything I have that when you ask them why are you here, they will look at you and look at their parents as if their parents or you should provide the answer.
Yeah.
But the minute you
Yeah.
focus and you say, actually, no, I'm asking you, why are you here? You've activated their interest. They're going to start trying to think of how they can come up with the answer to why they're here. And if they give you an answer that you don't like, ask them the why again. The whole purpose of this beta pitch is to get that engagement. Once they're invested in what you've said or what you are saying, 9 times out of 10 you'll get the interaction you want and the engagement you want.
Thank you, Toyin. It really reminds me of your own story with the board of executives. I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
great to go in with curiosity
Yes.
and rather than being too prepared and just ask the questions so they bring the
Yes.
answers from within. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much for
You're
sharing.
welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you, Labari. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your question. I love this. We're really seeing how this V.A.T.O.R pitch, this formula, this approach can be used in action. Ada, did you have a question or was there something you wanted to share?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Well, on this
Hello.
part of the world, on this part of the world, I've just been enjoying the conversation and just taking notes as well. A lot of the stuff that Tony said is just very relevant to the type of work that I do as a project manager, as a catalyst for women in tech, and also as a business owner. And so I really did enjoy the breakdown. I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit of what the last lady Labari said, just kind of working with at-risk kids at a volunteer level. I believe that just being able to go in mind of, okay, how can I come down to their level without making it obvious that they're at a certain level? How can I find out more about them before they find out more about the work that I'm here to do? Because a lot of times, younger people can have a way of humbling you. They'll make you know that they're meant to be the center of attention and not you. So just working, especially at risk kids, they're not fearful. No wonder sometimes, when you speak to stakeholders or like when you speak to certain people, they'll tell you it's best to have that childlike faith because kids are audacious. They believe they can be anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in relating back to them, just think of it as they can think of it as how do I come down to their level, but also maintaining some form of humility also on my
Mm-hmm.
as well. And then just going back to the Vader pitch, talking about growth as a project manager and as someone who works with, um, onshore and offshore teams, and
Mm-hmm.
just working with people in different aspects of the world that may not necessarily relate to the way tech is in America. How do you kind of like bridge the gap, and what are some of the ways that you can use the Vader pitch to kind of enhance that relationship?
Okay, now that's like a brilliant question. It's like I'm going for my PhD with that question. I thank you
Yes.
very, thank you very much for asking that question. So I'm gonna take it from the kids' perspective first, if that's okay. The challenge that a lot of us have, a lot of us that have grown up have, is we want to speak at the kids. We don't want to speak with them. And that's where using the Veta pitch as the question pitch actually works. And that's why I said to the last speaker that when you're speaking with the younger ones, instead of coming there with a speech prepared, actually just engage them and say, okay, what would you like me to do for you today? Right, that's just a question, and you're not bossing it over them, you're not lording it over them. And I always use myself as an example. When I was younger, if any adult came into the room to start talking to me, I just necessarily switched off. And I'm sure a lot of us went through that, even with our teachers, where you were not paying attention because you were just bored, and this person is just talking at me, speaking at me. But for us to get the engagement from the kids, irrespective of their ages, it's actually to actually involve them. Remember what I said when I first started? It's about getting them invested in the journey along with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, hi, here I am today. I'm sitting down with you guys, and I'm not sure what I'm doing here. So, what would you like me to do? What is of interest to you? What would you like us to discuss today? We never, when as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as professionals, or as speakers or team leads, whenever we go anywhere, the norm is to just speak at people,
Mm-hmm.
and we want them to engage with us. So there's a big disconnect there. We speak at them, and we want them to engage. When we speak with them, when you ask somebody a question, the person has no choice but to respond. And this is irrespective of age. They will answer you, and they will tell you, because as you said, it's out of the mouth of the babies. They will tell you what they want to discuss with you. And then you, because of your experience and your expertise, you can actually probe further, and you start asking them questions, which will actually start delivering what you went there to do. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of tech across across regional boundaries and things like that, it's all the same. I said there are different types of Veta pitches. There's the virtual pitch as well. Even if you're online, virtually, AI, whatever, it's about getting people to visualize what it is you want to do, or the partnership you want to create with them, how they can achieve value. And that's the hook in that aspect. I have clients in God knows how many countries outside of Africa, and it's about sitting them. We're sitting well, we're using Zoom, whatever, Google Teams, whatever it is. And it's about creating that image, activating their interest, getting them invested in the journey, interested and invested in the journey with you. So it's about what is the bigger picture? What is my definition of the value I want to provide with these people? And actually, instead of just speaking about it, put the questions there, activate. When human beings imagine things, it's very powerful. When we start visualizing how working with Ada can be, we start getting excited and we want to know more about how we can work together. And then we start coming up, oh, maybe we can do it this way, maybe we can do it that way. But the bottom line is getting that person to invest in your journey and you invest back in that person's journey. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much. I did make sure that I took some notes. And I just kind of like wanted to refer back to Labari.
Yeah.
The work that you're doing, it seems like a very impactful work to the younger generation. I think that also one of the things that would be helpful moving forward is to possibly use AI as a prompter. I know a lot of people, frown against AI. Tony did mention about that, but AI can be very powerful. Like Chat GPT, last night I
Hmm.
taught my husband how to use it, and he was on it for a straight 10 minutes before we were able to watch a movie. But when you use Chat GPT, you can put in something as simple as, how do I speak to, I don't know, how do I speak to a 60, what do I tell a 60, how do I explain um, growth mentality to a 16-year
Hmm.
old? Something like
Yeah.
that. And it'll pull it up for you. Of course, you have to cut out the fat, but it'll be a very good way to make your work easy and kind of automate your work a little bit. So that was just, thank you again, Akua, for this opportunity. And Tony, thank you for answering my question. I took notes of that.
Thank you very much for asking the fantastic question.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, asking a question as well. Really great to have you on the stage. I see we do have another person that joined us on the stage. Is it a Parvana? Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. Are you still there? And did you have a question or something you wanted to share?
Yeah, thank you, Aqua. It was nice to be part of this program, and I thank you, Adenola, for giving nice insights about networking. And this, I have a question to her to improve upon my networking skills. I
Yes.
let before I post my question, let me give a small background about me, the reason why I have this question. Basically, I am a professionally qualified person, but because of the transferable job, I keep moving from one place, transferable job of my husband, I keep moving from one place to the other place, and I take up the job at every place. So because of this frequent change in the job, I happen to start from as a beginner in all the organizations which I join, because I don't have much space for negotiation because the change of the place and the change of the sector as well. So I shifted to academics, and well, now I mean I never took a break except for my PhD full time. But when I start my work again I was be starting. I started as a fresher, and I have people working in my line who are much younger to me. Like I can say 20 years younger to me, and my boss is almost younger to me. Like she is around couple of years younger to me. I'm finding difficult to network with them. I'm qualified, I have experience, but still, because of my frequent shift in the change in my place of work, I happen to start up my hierarchy from the beginning. So I'm finding little difficult on networking. So what suggestions would you able to give to me to develop a smoother network with my colleagues and as well as in my work environment? Hope my question is clear.
Yes. Your question is very clear and it's a very powerful question. I'm just thinking about what you said. I think yes, it would be a challenge because you move around a lot. But then again, it's not about the quantity of time you spend with your colleagues. It should be about the quality of time. And when I say the quality of time, it's about how do you create co-shared value. And I know the age differentiator is always a factor, considering the fact that right now there are five different generations in the workplace today as we speak. However, there must be a way you can network and connect. Think about what it is you do, and also think about how you can provide some sort of value, whether it's in your experience, because you do have a lot of experience, whether it's in your experience with about your experience in a place that you've worked before or a country you've lived before. And that's what triggers up impactful networking or connecting intelligently. It's about showing and creating shared value. It's about creating that impact. It's about the ability to, how would I put it, convert your colleagues into shared value networks. And that's what you should try and think about. Don't think about the fact that you're starting every time you move to a different environment or a different organization or country, you're starting at a different level. Just have the conversation with them, about, oh yeah, where I used to work before, and share your experience with them. And when you share your experience and just ask them, what do you think? I think the most powerful thing in the world today to start off communication with anybody is to ask a question. Once you
Hmm.
ask the question and you ask a question that is targeted at what they do or what their experience is, that engagement will flow. I hope that makes some sort of sense.
Yeah, it's really it's a nice advice, but the only thing is I'm little hesitate to talk about my past to any of the people, with the intention that they might be thinking that I'm boasting around. So I never talk about my past experience in the new environment.
Okay, so let me just say this here, and I hope I'm not coming across as snobbish, right?
Never.
Um, but thank you, Akua. But Apana, it is you own it. So
Yep.
talk about it confidently without, yeah, I can hear somebody snapping their fingers. It's yours, it's your experience. Nobody can take that away from you. You can talk about it with all the humility you want, but it's your experience. And it's not, I mean, there's a way you would talk about it and it will come across as boasting, but there's a way you would speak about it and it would be, I'm having a conversation with you. We're trying to create, some sort of networking or some sort of partnership, co-creational, co-value creation or partnership, without it coming across as, okay, you just boasting. But that is your experience. So I think you should be confident and happy and proud about it and just share it with them. And don't be hesitant about it, because your hesitation might not be creating the value you want out of that organization.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot. This is the last sentence which I really appreciate and try to take it further. It was nice being part of this program. I joined this program little late, but it was a very valuable decision of mine to be part of this program. And I thank all the organizers, and my heartful thanks for Adrenola for giving me this kind of confidence to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Yes. Thank you so
Thank
much for your
you.
question. And just a shameless plug. So, just some shameless self promotion. If this is something, a skill that you're looking to build, there's something called the hashtag I'm Remarkable initiative. Check it out. I actually do workshops for them as well, because I think it's so important that all of us feel comfortable and confident sharing the value that we can provide. So, if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out and I can share where you can learn more about these workshops. So that was my shameless promotion there. But is it Gitina? I can't. I'm really sorry.
Hi, this is Geeta. Good morning,
Geeta.
everyone. Thanks for this
Hello.
wonderful.
Welcome.
Thanks for this wonderful session. I learned a lot. I also joined a little bit late. I do have a couple of questions. I'm in the industry for my industry for the past 22 years. So far, even though I have professional network, I never used got a job through the professional network. But I have been told that going forward, I need to use my professional network because I will be climbing up on the corporate ladder. Without the help, it is hard to find a job in the open market. The I want to know, get your opinion around it. My second question is, I heard positive and negative stories about getting a job through professional network. One of my friend, she had family issues and she was going through divorce, and she got a job, she got a raise, and he was doing very well in her job, but because through that professional network, that person knows her personal history, at times it fired her back. So her recommendation was continue to search in the open market. What is your thoughts on this situation?
Okay. Thank you, Giza. Okay. So it, the thing is, it depends on where you want to. I know you said you want to go up the corporate ladder, and I mean, kudos to you. But then growing up the corporate ladder does not necessarily mean an external network. It could be within your organization. You could have a sponsor in your organization. And I've actually seen that work many times, actually, very well, where the sponsor says, you know what, the sponsor within the organization will tell you that this is not the place for you. You should go somewhere else and you get a better job. There is there is that, and I understand what you mean, because mixing business and family and business and pleasure normally doesn't work. Sometimes it works, but it doesn't really work. What I would advise is think about actually getting a sponsor within your organization, because you could actually go through the career trajectory within your organization and then get headhunted elsewhere. What I said at the beginning was, whenever anybody is going to talk about you in the room, you won't be there. The person who will be there, who has the capital to make it for you and to leverage your experience for you, would be your sponsor. So I would advise that you get a sponsor, and it could even be within your professional network, but a sponsor has to be a person of power, a person of authority who would recommend you. And it actually speaks to what you just said, because if that person had a sponsor, when they were making that decision, that person would be the advocate for that individual. So think about getting a sponsor, whether it's in your professional network or whether it's in your organization. A sponsor actually helps, because a sponsor, as I said before, gives you the capital that you need and want.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your question. I do know that we're getting close to half past the hour. So I do want to check in with Toye before I actually say what I was going to say next. Do you have an
Yeah.
additional 5 minutes, or we have to be done at the half hour?
I have an additional 5 minutes.
Okay, great. So then before I share my question, I just want to reach out to the audience. As you can tell, Toye has some really great advice, a lot of great experience. So if you do have a burning question you would like to ask her live, feel free to raise your hand, and you can join us on stage. I'll give a few seconds to see if anyone bites. And if not, I will share my question before we close out.
Okay.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised yet. I know there is a bit of a delay, but I did want to go back to that question I was asking earlier around, if you are a bit more entry level, you don't have as much experience or stature, how can you have these conversations? How can you, build your confidence so that you are able to show your value, and probably most importantly, helps a sponsor see that, hey, this is a win-win opportunity.
Okay. I think so. I would like to go away from the myth that you have to be at a senior level or middle level to actually have those confident conversations. I think it's about who you are and what you bring to the table, because every individual is an expert, right, in their field, right? And so it's about, and the most important thing is about, I think first is about knowing what it is you want. And remember when I was speaking about sponsorship before, I said I advise people to use the DDAI principle, which is first D is decide on what you want, right? Define how you want it, define how you can add value to the relationship with your sponsor, right? And then state your intentionality. Right, and that's the bottom line. State your intentionality and invest in your two currencies. You have to know where you are in the organization. You have to know, and I don't like using this thing called what you bring to the table, because as far as I'm concerned, there's no longer a table, it's a whole building, and I'm bringing it, right? And I'm owning it.
Yes.
So it's about having that confidence. Yes, it's about having that confidence. And remember what I said, irrespective of the level you are at, right? When you're going to approach a sponsor, if the person doesn't come to you first, you have to understand what you said to the sponsor at the very beginning. Oh, could I have a few minutes of your time? I'd like to discuss a proposition with you. You did say a few minutes. So before you sit down in front of that sponsor, you need to be able to define what it is you want, decide on what you want it, how you can add value. Because I also said before that it's a two-way relationship. The sponsor will give you the capital, but the sponsor wants value, and he or she wants performance from you. So there's no point in me being a sponsor and then the person I'm sponsoring actually cannot deliver. You have to be able to tell me, show me, or yeah, show me, most importantly, that you can deliver on what you say you want me to do for you.
Yes, yes. And I think this was also a really great question to sort of wrap up today's conversation. Toyin, thank you so much for your
Thank
time,
you.
for your energy. As you can see, this is a very, very interesting topic. We still have 27 people listening, even though we've gone over a few minutes. So thank you all for joining us today. Before we leave, Toyin, can you please let everyone know how they can find out more about you, and where can they learn more about this V.A.T.O.R pitch and this formula to really help them think about how they're putting themselves out there, how they connect, and how they can better engage?
Okay, great. First, I'll say thank you very much, Aqua, for having me on your stage. I feel, as I said to you earlier on, I feel very chuffed to be here. I'd also
Yay.
like to thank all the people that are listening in. Thank you very much, and for the fantastic questions. I did get a lot of
Yes.
fantastic questions. However, one of the things I will say before I go on to the other part of what you said was the easiest thing to do to get the sponsor would be make sure you're visible.
Yes.
You cannot get a sponsor by hiding in the background. So you need to have the confidence, make yourself visible. And I'm just going to go back. A while ago, somebody said to me, yes, the MD always has his inner circle and
Mm.
I'm always on the outer circle. And I said, well, that's your problem. You want to be on the outer circle. How are those people in the MD's inner circle? They're in the MD's inner circle because they perform. They deliver on what he wants. So for you to get into that inner circle, and it's global, it's not an African thing, it's not a Nigerian thing, it's a global thing. For you to get into that inner circle, you have to be able to deliver. And the only way you can deliver and be seen to be delivering is one, by being visible, and
Mhm.
make sure that you are visible. Be the expert. Whatever, however small your unit is, however small your role is, whatever it is you're doing, make sure that you can be the expert and you deliver on it. It's whatever the sector, just be the expert on it, so that when they ask you what's this, you give them the answer, right? Be indispensable. Let them know that you can do it and you will do it. And just make sure, and even sometimes just being visible and letting them see you, they know that you can do it. I have a client who, the way she got the CEO to be her sponsor was, every time they finished a normal meeting, she'd say, oh, is there anything else you need me to do for you?
Wow. Just that, huh?
And she said,
Wow.
yeah, just that. She said she asked him three different meetings, three different meetings. He said no. But then the fourth time he said, actually, yes. When we were talking, you did say XYZ. How can you help me with that? And that's how they started the sponsorship relationship. So it's all about you own it, own whatever experience, own whatever expertise you have, and bring that to the table. And that's
Yes.
that.
I
Yes.
love that.
And then I have a website. It's www.skillsultants.com. And you can connect with me via LinkedIn as well. I'm always happy to connect with people and to talk to people and to work with people if you want, on how to get sponsorship in the workplace. I'm on LinkedIn, as I said. I will tell you my email address is toyin@skillsultants.com. I know I'm supposed to be on Instagram and Twitter, but
It's not by force. It's not by force.
yes. But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on my website. I just told you. And then we can connect on that and start talking moving forward. But I'm always willing to meet new people, connect with more people, and of course, create shared value.
Yes. Oh, I love it, Toyin. Can you please all show Toyin some love? We'd love to see some clapping emojis, some heart emojis. This has been, I think, such an incredible conversation, Toyin. And actually, share an emoji if you think we should have a part 2. Toyin, I'd love to have you come back. Maybe our next topic can be like how to be visible and how to be indispensable, because I really love how you shared that in the workplace. That might be our part 2. So we'll take the conversation offline, but I definitely think we need to continue having these conversations and talking about how the V.A.T.O.R framework can really support you with this. So thank you so much again, Toyin. Thank you all for your amazing questions. I really appreciate it. I can't believe we still have 25 people listening. Toyin, do you see these reactions for you?
Yes, I do.
Do you see
Thank
these
you.
They're for
Thank
you.
you.
For you.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. I'm very chuffed. I'm seeing all the reactions and all the clappings and the thumbs up and the hearts and stuff like that. So thank you very much for listening, and appreciate all of you for taking the time out of your busy day. It's a Friday evening. For listening to me, and thank you, Akua, for having me on your stage. And I look forward to connecting with everybody on that is here today. As I said, please feel free. Just send me an invite. I'll connect with you, and we can, work together going forward. Thank you very much, Akua.
All right. Thank you all so much again. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have an amazing weekend. Bye.
Bye.